Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. Tonight we follow Tuna, a young mother standing between duty and desire, between fear and hope. She tries to survive each day while raising her child, but then Alex appears, a man torn between the weight of business and the pull of love. Will Alex's heartfelt proposal be enough to heal Tuna's hidden wounds? Can a single bouquet of flowers and a whispered promise change the course of her life? And when fate delivers an unexpected truth that Tuna is carrying Alex's child, will this bring them closer or place a heavier burden on their fragile bond? Stay with us until the end to uncover the silence, the glances, and the choices that shape their future. And if you find this story moving, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's reach 10,000 followers together so more people can feel the heartbeat behind these words. The morning unfolded like a pale sheet of silk, brushed by faint light seeping through the window. Tuna sat quietly before the camera, her voice soft, almost like the rustle of leaves in early dawn. She greeted the unseen crowd with a gentle smile, offering them wishes of peace and safety, as though she wanted to gift them a fragment of her own fragile hope. Her words carried gratitude, simple but unshaken, thanking those who had stayed, watched, encouraged her in silence. She confessed that her journey was still long, that she felt young and unprepared, unable to create videos as often as she wished. Behind her eyes was the flicker of weariness, the quiet shadow of sleepless nights, yet she cloaked it with tenderness, masking heaviness beneath warmth. The room smelled faintly of milk, of laundry left to dry, of a child's breath lingering in the air. She spoke of her son, her responsibility, her quiet anchor. Her voice trembled just slightly when she admitted her limits, asking for understanding, for patience. "When my child grows a little," she whispered, "I will try to be here more often." The sentence lingered like a promise written on mist, uncertain yet sincere. There was no applause, no crowd to cheer her, only silence, the steady hum of life, the clicking sound of her camera recording every syllable. Yet in that silence, her words bloomed like wildflowers in the cracks of stone, fragile, unnoticed, but alive. It was the beginning of her story, spoken not with grandeur but with honesty. And beneath it all, an invisible thread of longing, to be seen, to be loved, to belong. The morning deepened, and Tuna's world shifted from quiet words to hurried steps. Her child lay still, small chest rising and falling in rhythm with dreams too tender to be disturbed. She glanced at the sleeping face, her heart caught between love and worry. The kitchen smelled faintly of rice husks and fruit ripening in baskets. Outside, the cicadas had already begun their chorus, a reminder of time slipping away. She thought of Mrs. Tang, the elderly neighbor, and wondered if she was well enough today. Her leg had been in pain, perhaps keeping her from work. Tuna hesitated, then resolved. She would bring the baby to her. Only then could she find a few hours to harvest dragon fruit, sell them at the market, and earn just enough for the day's needs. The thought pressed on her like the weight of summer heat, heavy, relentless, yet familiar. With soft hands, she gathered the baby's things: tiny clothes, a bottle of milk, a cloth still smelling faintly of soap. Each item felt like a fragment of her own life entrusted to another's care. She whispered gently to the child, promising to return soon, even as doubt gnawed at her. Was she doing enough? Was she enough? At Mrs. Tang's house, she handed over the child. The elder's arms cradled him with ease, her voice soothing. Tuna lingered, her eyes reluctant to part. Then, with a deep breath, she turned away, her steps carrying both the burden of survival and the quiet ache of separation. Behind her, the child's faint murmur blended with the wind, a reminder of the fragile balance she walked each day. The morning sun spilled across the city, painting glass windows in shades of gold. Alex stood by his desk, the weight of two worlds pressing against his chest. In one hand, he envisioned a bouquet of flowers, a velvet box carrying a ring, and a delicate necklace that shimmered like a promise yet unspoken. In the other, a phone vibrated endlessly with calls about shipments, schedules, and contracts, threads binding him to the relentless rhythm of commerce. Ms. Land's voice came first, urgent but respectful, reminding him of the consignment waiting for inspection. Soon after, Adam's voice filled his ear, firm and calculating, a businessman evaluating both quality and trust. Alex responded with calm authority, yet beneath the words, his heart beat in another rhythm altogether, one that whispered Tuna's name. They drove together to the gardens. The road narrowed, framed by trees whose leaves shimmered like restless thoughts. Workers bent over crates of custard apples, fruits glistening with morning dew, fragile and easily bruised. Much like the love Alex carried, delicate but worth protecting. He checked the fruit, nodded at Adam's assessments, all the while his mind drifting to the farm where Tuna would be. Unaware of the storm of nerves building in him. By afternoon, the deal was sealed. Adam left satisfied, and Ms. Lan handled the remaining details. Alex, however, felt no triumph. Instead, he returned home, retrieving the bouquet, the ring, the necklace, tokens not of wealth, but of hope. Standing before the mirror, he saw not a CEO, but a man trembling at the thought of love, caught between duty to his business and the deeper duty of his heart. The evening light stretched long across the floor, casting shadows like questions Alex could not answer. He paced slowly, flowers trembling in his grasp, the velvet box weighing heavier than any shipment he had ever handled. His reflection in the mirror looked back with the eyes of a man who commanded workers and signed contracts. Yet tonight, he was simply a boy at the edge of confession. He thought of Tuna's smile, fragile as morning mist, and her silence carrying more weight than words. He thought of the child she cradled, the small heartbeat that had become part of her every breath. Could he step into that world, not as an outsider, but as a pillar she could lean on? The thought both terrified and steadied him. On the table lay the necklace, glinting faintly like starlight caught in silver. He touched it, then closed his fist around the ring. His heart raced, uneven, as if every beat asked the same question. Will she accept me? Outside, cicadas hummed their restless song. Inside, silence grew, pressing on him until courage was the only escape. He dressed carefully, though his hands betrayed their tremor. Time moved with cruel softness, each second both a gift and a burden. He whispered into the quiet, almost a prayer. Let her see me. Let her believe in me. Then he stepped out into the dusk, carrying not just flowers and jewels, but the fragile weight of his own soul laid bare. The farm was quiet, its silence broken only by the faint crackle of firewood and the gentle hiss of boiling water. Tuna moved softly through the small kitchen, her hands busy, her thoughts distant. The baby slept soundly in the next room, leaving the house wrapped in a fragile calm. Then came the knock, hesitant yet certain. She opened the door to find Alex standing there, flowers trembling in his hands, eyes dark with unspoken words. He entered like a storm, disguised as stillness. She asked why he had brought flowers, her voice half curious, half guarded. He faltered, then confessed. His words spilled slowly, haltingly. He had carried her in his heart for longer than he dared admit. He wanted to care for her child, to become more than a visitor at the door of her life. The ring glimmered between them, a circle of promise. Tuna's breath caught. She looked at him, then at the flowers, then down at her hands. I don't know if I'm worthy, she whispered. Her eyes shimmered with fear, not of him, but of herself, of stepping into a happiness she feared she could not hold. Silence stretched, heavy yet tender. Alex did not press. He only promised to wait. He slid the necklace into her hands, urging her to accept it, not as an answer, but as a reminder of hope. In the flicker of lamplight, their eyes met, his steady, hers uncertain. The night thickened around them, yet in that quiet, a seed of something unshakable had been planted. Night fell gently over the farm, the sky deepening into a velvet canvas scattered with dim stars. Inside, the house was lit by a single lamp, its glow painting both warmth and shadow across the room. Alex remained seated, flowers resting on the wooden table, their fragrance mingling with the scent of cooked rice. Tuna moved quietly, her presence both near and distant, as though she were walking a fragile line between acceptance and retreat. The ring still lay in its box, unopened. Yet the promise it carried lingered in the air. Alex reached across, his voice low but firm. I will wait. No matter how long it takes, I will wait. His words did not demand. They simply settled like rain on dry soil, soft yet steady. Tuna looked at him, eyes dim with hesitation. Yet something inside her softened. She accepted the flowers, allowed him to fasten the necklace gently around her neck. In that gesture there was no triumph, only quiet acknowledgement. She had not said yes, but she had not turned away either. It was an engagement not of ceremony, but of presence. Two lives tethered by a fragile agreement to move forward, even if the steps were slow. The baby stirred in sleep, a faint murmur threading through the silence. Alex rose, his hands surprisingly tender as he adjusted the blanket, as though proving through action what words could not. Tuna watched, her heart unsettled, yet warmed. They were not yet a family, not yet bound by vows. But in the hush of that evening, an invisible line had been crossed. The future no longer belonged to one, but to two. Days turned into weeks, and the air grew heavier with the weight of unspoken changes. Tuna often felt her body betray her. Sudden waves of nausea, the faint dizziness that came without warning, the quiet exhaustion that followed her even in moments of rest. At first she brushed it aside, blaming the labor of the farm, the endless hours of tending, feeding, caring. But soon, the signs became undeniable. With trembling resolve, she went to the clinic, her steps slow as though each carried the burden of an answer she was not ready to face. The doctor's voice was gentle, yet its meaning struck like thunder rolling over a silent field. She was carrying a child, Alex's child. For a moment, the world tilted. Tuna pressed her hands against her abdomen, as though cradling both fear and miracle. The past she had tried to survive, the present she was learning to endure. And now the future, suddenly written within her, pressed against her heart with terrifying clarity. When she told Alex, his eyes widened, then softened. He did not speak immediately. Instead, he reached for her hands, steadying them, steadying her. "This is our child," he whispered, not as a claim but as a vow. His words were both anchor and storm, binding him irrevocably to her fate. Tuna looked away, tears balancing on the edge of her lashes. Happiness, fear, doubt, they swirled together like clouds before rain. She knew life ahead would not be easier. In fact, it might demand more than she thought she had. Yet, in the silence of that moment, beneath the weight of his hand and the life growing within her, she realized she was no longer alone. And that is the end of today's story. From Tuna's quiet struggles to Alex's trembling proposal, from hesitation to the fragile promise of an engagement. And finally, the discovery of new life. This journey was never about grand gestures, but about the silent moments that change everything. Will Tuna accept the weight of love and the future growing within her? Can Alex truly balance the world of business with the world of family? Or will time test their promises in ways they cannot yet imagine? Only the days ahead will reveal the answers. But one truth remains. Love is not measured by certainty, but by the courage to stay when the road grows heavy. Thank you for watching until the very end. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's reach 10,000 followers and continue sharing more stories that whisper to the heart.